You ever catch yourself watching an older relative, maybe your dad or an aunt, brush off some feel-good Instagram quote with a single arched eyebrow? Like, they're not angry about it, just unimpressed. As if they've seen too many shiny promises fall flat to buy into the hype. You smile, thinking it's just their age, but deep down, you wonder if there's something more wired into them from way back. If you grew up in the 1970s or know someone who did, this might hit a little close. That quiet skepticism, it's not random. It's baked in from a decade where kids learned to fend for themselves before anyone thought to bubble wrap the world. And today, we're peeling back why that era left such a distinct psychological imprint. One that's equal parts tough and tender, resilient yet subtly guarded. Stick around, because by the end, you might spot it in yourself. Or realize why that one friend always rolls their eyes at good vibes only. Let's start with the classic, the self-reliant fixer. Picture this. You're 8 years old, home alone after school because both parents are pulling double shifts in a post-oil crisis economy. The fridge is half empty, the TV's got 3 channels, and if the bike chain snaps on your way to the corner store for milk, well, you figure it out with a screwdriver from the junk drawer. No Google, no group chat for advice. Just you, trial and error, and maybe a scraped knuckle. Fast forward to adulthood, and this translates into a mindset where problems aren't crises, they're puzzles. These folks don't spiral into panic, they tinker until it works. Psychologically, it's rooted in that early independence, forging neural pathways for resilience before the brain even fully wires up. They learned young that waiting for help often meant going without. So now, when life throws a curveball like a flat tire on a road trip, they're the ones calmly popping the trunk while everyone else debates apps for roadside assistance. It's not that they're anti-help, it's just that their baseline assumes self-sufficiency. You might recognize it in how they quietly handle setbacks, almost like it's second nature. Maybe it's you, telling yourself, "I've got this," even when part of you wonders why others seem to need a committee for every decision. Then there's the quiet skeptic, the one who side-eyes the scripted optimism of today. Imagine growing up amid Watergate headlines blaring from the evening news, where trust in institutions crumbled right alongside rising divorce rates and economic wobbles. Parents were less about curating perfect childhoods and more about survival. So these individuals developed a subconscious filter for BS, a kind of internal radar honed by unfiltered reality. They're the ones at a team-building workshop who nod politely at fail-forward mantras, but inwardly think, sure, until it actually costs you something. It's not cynicism, it's pragmatism, earned from a time when positivity wasn't packaged and sold. Psychologically, this stems from adapting to ambiguity without safety nets. No constant parental affirmation or digital echo chambers to soften the edges. They prefer the raw truth because they've seen polished veneers cracked too many times. But here's a twist. On the surface, it looks like stubbornness, like they're resistant to change just to be contrarian. Dig deeper though, and it's protective. A way to avoid the disappointment they witnessed in the 70s when big societal promises, endless prosperity, fizzled out. You act all chill about modern trends, dismissing them with a shrug. Emotionally, very pragmatic. But inwardly, it's guarding that hard-won realism. If this sounds familiar, pause and ask, when was the last time you quietly dismissed a viral self-help tip? Not because it's wrong, but because life taught you it's rarely that simple. Another pattern emerges in the adaptable realist, those who navigate chaos with a no-nonsense lens. Think back to a 70s childhood. Saturday mornings meant cartoons interrupted by PSAs about energy conservation, and playtime was unsupervised adventures in the neighborhood, dodging whatever hazards came your way, no curated playdates or allergy alerts. This bred a psychology of rolling with punches, where flexibility isn't optional, it's survival. Today, they show up as the colleague who pivots during a project meltdown without fanfare, or the parent who lets their kids skin a knee because, hey, that's how you learn balance. It's intuitive resilience, wired from constant adaptation to shifting norms. Women entering the workforce en masse, families restructuring overnight. They don't romanticize the past, but they don't buy into today's obsession with optimization either. You tell yourself it's no big deal to improvise, while secretly appreciating how it keeps you grounded. And if you're still tuning in, wondering if this mirrors someone in your life, or maybe you hit that subscribe button, join the conversation in the comments. Who's the 70s kid in your circle that embodies this? But here's the twist with the hidden idealist, the one that flips the script on what you might assume. At first glance, these folks come across as perpetually pragmatic, almost detached, shrugging off emotional displays like they're optional extras. Grew up in an era of latchkey autonomy, right? So independence equals emotional armor. Yet underneath, there's this subtle undercurrent of quiet hope, born from having to imagine better outcomes on their own. Without adults constantly narrating the narrative, they daydreamed freely, envisioning futures amid the grit of stagflation or cultural upheavals. Psychologically, it's a contradiction, resilience from low supervision, but also a private optimism that modern, toxic positivity feels like a cheap imitation of. They resist the curated cheer because it rings hollow compared to the earned hope they cultivated solo. On the surface, it might look like aloofness, like they're too tough for vulnerability. But the motive, it's preserving that inner spark, the one sparked in empty afternoons where imagination was the only escape. You notice it in how they quietly root for underdogs, or hold on to traditions that feel authentic amid the noise. Maybe it's you, acting unflappable while nurturing that unspoken belief that things can improve if you handle it your way. And finally, the boundary setter, who draws lines with effortless firmness. Envision a kid in bell-bottoms, negotiating curfews with working parents who were too exhausted for debates, or mediating sibling squabbles because no one else was around. This era's low-key parenting meant learning social dynamics raw, without buffers. So now, in adulthood, they excel at spotting when to say no, not out of meanness, but from an innate sense of self-preservation honed young. Psychologically, it's pragmatism meeting emotional intelligence. They value connections but won't sacrifice sanity for them. They're the friend who declines the group chat drama with a polite exit, preferring real talk over endless threads. It challenges the assumption that 70s kids are just rugged individualists. Actually, their boundaries stem from understanding interdependence, knowing that unchecked involvement leads to burnout, as seen in their parents' stretched thin lives. You play it cool, like it's just preference, but deep down, it's wisdom from a time when overcommitment wasn't glorified. As we wrap this up, think back, which of these felt a bit too spot on? The fixer who's always got a plan B, or the skeptic who sees through the gloss? Maybe the idealist hiding behind realism, or the one setting boundaries like it's breathing. Growing up in the 70s wasn't about perfection. It was about piecing together a worldview from scraps of independence and unscripted lessons. And if you're nodding along, recognizing echoes in your own habits or someone close, that's the point. It lingers, doesn't it? That quiet realization that beneath the pragmatism is a generation shaped by raw possibility. And a healthy dose of doubt. When did it click for you?